sorry, before I threw to that clip, I got it a little backwards. It was Sydney Moore who had gotten the tattoo with Tammy's name. And the prosecution throughout this case had really tried to insinuate that he had gotten the tattoo after Heather Elvis's disappearance. There's a photo of the tattoo right now. What was the point of Tammy Moore's testimony, Linda, right then, talking about how it was actually a tattoo that they got in 2012, that he got in 2012?
Well, it wasn't that after Heather was killed, which is the theory, that she was going to say, okay, he's mine, right, mine. But as somebody just recently said to us, no matter what, he was branded right across, I mean, it was more than I wanted to see, quite frankly, right across his abdomen there, Tammy. And, you know, if you look at her, just really quickly, Rachel, she said she's getting wound up because she won't answer her lawyer's question. She has to give a speech, and that's not a good thing for a defendant on the stand.
Okay, Judge Brendan Birmingham joins me from Texas as well via Skype. You're getting a little window into this case, starting with Tammy Moore's testimony. What did you make so far of her on the stand?
Well, I think that she's pretty quick to reveal herself. I noticed that the defense started out by saying, hey, you use salty language, but that's just in your character. Kind of everybody knows that, so trying to rebut some of that. I see on here that they were also trying to rebut the motive in this case, that, hey, she talked to Heather Elvis, discovered the affair, didn't really, care about it, and so they're trying to defeat the prosecution's theory that the motive of this killing was this affair.
Absolutely. Okay, let's listen to one more clip of Tammy Moore from when she took the stand. So stay with us here on Law and Crime. It's going to be interesting. Welcome back. We're still in South Carolina inside the case against Tammy Moore, who is facing kidnapping and conspiracy charges for allegedly working with her husband, Sydney Moore, to kidnap Sydney Moore, her husband's mistress, who prosecutors say was pregnant, and that went behind some of the motive why they wanted her gone. She disappeared 2013. Her body never found. Tammy Moore, who you see there, was facing murder charges along with her husband at some point, but the prosecutor had to drop those charges because not enough evidence. So we have finally gotten to the critical moments where Tammy Moore describes the pregnancy test that her husband, Sydney Moore, bought the night of Heather's disappearance. I believe we actually have some surveillance footage of that. It happened inside a Walmart. At about 1:19 in the morning, Sydney Moore purchased a pregnancy test. And the assumption by the prosecution is that they were going to try to force Heather or something to use this pregnancy test before getting rid of her, or something involving Heather possibly being pregnant. That's what the prosecutor alleged. Tammy Moore tried to clear this all up on the stand. Take a listen to what she had to say.
State's Exhibit 22, does that appear to be a receipt?
It's not a receipt. It looks like it's something that was pulled off of the computer to, instead of the receipt, because they didn't have the actual receipt.
All right. Can you read that? Does it have something that indicates pregnancy test on it?
This is preg test, SSLTLCR, with the date above it, that's your age. The date at the bottom says 12/18/13, time 1:19, 43 seconds.
1:19 and 43 seconds.
Right.
And it's Your Honor, may I publish this? State's 22. So another kind of dumb question. Did in fact your husband go inside Walmart and purchase, among other things, a pregnancy test?
He did.
And at some point, did you use the pregnancy test?
I did.
And did it indicate in December of 2018 that you were pregnant?
It did not. I was not pregnant then.
Okay. When you left Walmart. Where's Walmart located?
It's beside Home Depot in Myrtle Beach, right off 17.
Is it off of 501?
Or is it 501? I'm sorry.
And so you left there, and then you say you went and had sex in the truck.
We had sex before Walmart, and then we had sex again after Walmart.
All right. And after having sex, what did you then do? The second time?
After the second time, I believe he went back to Sticky Fingers to make sure that alarm code was set, because he couldn't remember if he turned the alarm on.
Okay.
In the first visit, Sticky Fingers, the manager, he talked to the manager. I think her name was Terry. And we saw her before she left, and she told him what he needed to do, but then he forgot to do the code, from what I remember. Again, it's on.
And then at some point, did you leave Sticky Fingers? I know it's been 4.5 years ago. At some point, did other than Sticky Fingers and these things, did you go anywhere else?
He got some gas on the corner of Sam's Club that night. I don't remember anything in detail that would be, in relation to this case at all.
And at some point, did you go to the Food Lion, which is open all night on Highway?
Bilo, yeah, we got the
I'm sorry,
Bilo.
on Bilo, on 544 Dick Pond Road.
Yes.
And then after that, did you then go home?
Right after we got the ad, we went straight home.
And once you went home, did you stay home?
I stayed home until my mom called me about her flat tire the next morning. Well, the next afternoon.
I want you to look again.
Okay, so that, believe it or not, is the critical testimony in all of this, because this is Tammy Moore explaining what happened the night Heather Elvis disappeared on December 18th, 2013. What does she say happened? She says, well, her and her husband, Cindy Moore, had sex in the truck. Then they went and bought a pregnancy test. Then they had some more sex. Then they went to a gas station, maybe went by a grocery store, and then they went home. So that's basically her alibi. Linda Kenny Bottom, criminal defense attorney, with me, along with Judge Brandon Birmingham out of Texas. I'm going to take it to you first, Judge. What do you make of her testimony? Because this is the critical stuff, her describing what happened that night.
It's going to be very important if you're setting up an alibi to fill in as many of these holes as you can. I understand that they have some cell phone records that they're going to try to use, and what she's saying better match up with those cell phone records. And if it doesn't, then she's going to have a lot of explaining to do. That would be absolutely damaging to her alibi.
And Linda, what did you make of her demeanor while she was describing the night in question?
Well, right now she's still in her performance mode that she feels that she's in control. You see, she's got the eyelashes on. Yeah. She's all dressed up. She wants to talk about how, make it appear like they're fine. She's buying the pregnancy test for her, and we know later she does get pregnant. So, it all makes sense, because I wasn't upset about the nice girl, Heather, who she previously called the little C word.
Yes.
Okay?
Right. So she's putting on, Linda thinks, a bit of an act here. She gets a little rattled during cross-examination. Let's take a look at some of that.
Miss Morrow, do you know who I am?
I do.
Okay, and who am I?
Nancy Livesay, you've made my life miserable. Am I allowed to ask you a question? No. Okay. Sorry. Okay.
And I noticed you mentioned some other people by first and last name. Alan Large, Jessica,
Yes.
you know all those people?
Yes.
Okay. You got those names on a list somewhere?
Well, those were the two that arrested us in the beginning, so that's why I remember them.
Or do you have our name on a list somewhere?
I've seen you in the court trials against my husband.
Have you sent your sister up here to take any pictures of me?
No.
Okay. Now, you do know who Heather Elvis is, correct?
I do. She's a very pretty girl.
Right. And just so we're on the same page, this is her?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And is this the way you saw her?
I've never seen her. That's a picture, yes.
Your sister testified earlier that y'all looked her up on Facebook.
Sydney showed me who she was on Facebook.
And you were asking your sister to take a picture, correct?
I don't recall that. But you said it's in our text messages, and I may have.
Well, you've seen the discovery.
Yes, so I'm telling you I may have, yes.
Okay. So you would admit you did ask your sister.
All right, so that is the beginning of some cross-examination by the prosecution of Tammy Moore, who was a defense witness in her own case. Linda, what did you make of some of that cross there?
Well, you see, a good cross-examiner sets it up, right? And the prosecutor's setting it up. She knows she can't go in and say, did you kidnap Heather? She's going to lie, right? She's not going to say she kidnapped Heather Elvis. So she's trying to take control. Did you drive? Were you in the car? And there's a few right answers.
Kind of
right, car.
Exactly.
And then finally she got her to say yes. So she is leading up to really going to try to take control of her, attack her, or let her personality come out, which is really what you do if you want to let somebody is guilty of kidnapping and probably murder.
All right, Judge, what did you think?
First of all, she's funny. But second, I do like the way she started out. She is setting these traps, those phone records, locking down whose phone number belongs to who, and she's setting those traps for later on down the road. Also, you can hear, though, the way that she's answering these questions, every single answer has a qualifier. She is educating that prosecutor, and she wants to make sure that she's still in control. And I think the jurors are going to pick up on that. It just doesn't have the ring of truth to it.
All right, very interesting stuff. This is a fascinating case to watch. We covered the entire thing gavel to gavel here on the Law and Crime Network, and we're basically trying to give you the highlights here in these last 2 hours. When we return from the break, we're going to take you inside the prosecution and defense's closing argument and then the verdict. Stay with us.
Now, the fact that they were together all night, and she told you that in the statement. She said, I was with him in the truck all night. And I'm going to go ahead and let Tammy play it for you. That way you don't have to take my word for it.
I was with him in the truck all night. Yes, I was there.
That's telling you who was in that truck when they went to Peachtree Lane. They were in that truck all night. There's no way that he got off that phone with Heather Elvis and went down there without Tammy Moore. It would not happen. It would not happen. They were together until the very end. Now, I want to go very quickly before I sit down.
Okay, the prosecution doing a pretty good job of using Tammy's words against her. Let's listen to the defense now in their closings.
Yeah, because we told you we went to Walmart. Oh, then you went and made a phone call from a payphone. You did that. Well, did he? Did he? What have they proved? They got a grainy video of somebody walking to a payphone. We don't know. Walking to a payphone, getting on the phone, and talking about 4 or 5 minutes. And Ms. Livesey would have you believe that it was part of some grand plan, which doesn't fit together at all. Okay? Think about it just a minute. If this lady right here, who's been under the cloud of these charges for 4 years, under suspension 4 years and 10 months, if that lady was who they say she is, and I submit they don't know her. They don't know her like I do. If it's a plan, and Sydney's going to go use the payphone to make a call to lure her out, then what? Don't you think she'd be standing there in the video listening? Because we pretty much know that whatever else happened, Sydney Moore had feelings for this young woman. I don't know if he loved her. Okay? There's no evidence that he didn't like her. When this thing happened, when the car was found, and the car was taken by Mr. Terry Elvis, and he would not let the police take it and search it. And then when no one could find Heather Elvis, and then when they found out that the last phone call was to a phone registered for City Moore. That was it. Like, that's it. That's it. They go to their house, and what do? They do what innocent people do. Hey.
All right, so I think that the defense attorney made a pretty good case there, Linda and Judge, but what do you think?
Well, the problem is he has a client from hell, as I would like to say it. And it started when Tammy, we didn't see it, went talking to the prosecutor and called her by her first name, which is a big no-no for a defendant.
We didn't play that clip,
but it's a big no-no, okay? And the prosecutor kind of alluded to it. The problem is when the defense attorney says she is not the mastermind, right? You could see, what are these people? When she got on the stand, she was controlling, she was being a jerk, to be quite honest with you. She was, and I'm a defense attorney, remember, she was every defense attorney's fear.
Right.
It was terrible.
And she was defensive, everything.
Everything.
Judge Birmingham, though, what did you think of the closings from both the prosecution and the defense?
First of all, I'm a big fan of butcher paper, and I think that the prosecutor was too. But she had a really interesting quote up there. I've never heard it described like this, and I wrote it down. The silent witnesses of the truth, the cell phones, and the threats that were made, bringing the jurors back to the objective proof. And when you couple that with the way that it is almost impossible to envision that the defendant would be a follower, could be masterminded by somebody else, it really just doesn't fit. So I thought it was a really good presentation by the prosecutor.
All right, let's take a quick listen to the verdict in this case.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Tammy Cason Moore, guilty of kidnapping. We, the jury, find the defendant, Tammy Cason Moore, guilty of conspiracy to kidnap.
It guilty of those conspiracy and kidnapping charges. That was a bit surprising to me in the sense, if you look at the hard evidence there was not a whole lot to go on, which is why, Linda, they had to drop the murder charges.
That's right. But you know what? The murder charges could still be implemented if they find this body.
Refiled.
And after we had the case this week, right, in Florida, of Mitchell, right?
Yes.
A body can be found many years after, even if it is in a lake or a pond, and they can then read her testimony back, because that's an admission, and she would get convicted, in my opinion, as a defense attorney.
All right, and what's interesting too is at the end, she really threw, we're not showing this but because we don't have enough time, but she really threw her defense attorney under the bus during sentencing. Judge, really quickly, does that ever help your case?
No, it does not ever help your case. You know, contrition, that helps a lot. You know, accepting responsibility, that helps a lot. But I mean, man, you know, things like that never ever help.
All right, this was an interesting case. If you want to read more about the Tammy Moore case, we have all sorts of articles on lawandcrime.com. You can read about every single detail. In the meantime, when we come back, we're going to take you inside another case. So stay with us here on the Law and Crime Network.